So in this video I'll continue with module 4, that is the second half of module 4, wired LANs, that is Ethernet. So here I'll be discussing on Ethernet protocol as well as the standard Ethernet. So before moving to the exact Ethernet protocol, let us see some important points here. So IEEE has started one project that is called as IEEE Project 802. The main intention of this project was to set the standards in order to enable the communication, that is especially the intercommunication among equipments which are from the different manufacturers. That is, it's the one way of specifying the functions of the physical layer as well as data link layer protocols, right? So as you can see here in this figure shows the relationship between the IEEE Project 802 as well as the OSI or TCP IP stool, right? So here as you can see the data link layer in which it is divided by or it is handled by two layers, that is LLC and MAC, right? So here the IEEE has subdivided the data link layer into two sub layers. The first one is LLC, that stands for logical link control, and the second one is MAC, that stands for media access control. So let us start with the first one, that is LLC, logical link control. So already we know that, see, in data link control what happens, it handles the framing, flow control as well as error control, isn't it? But here coming to the IEEE Project 802, here it is going to handle the flow control, error control as well as the part of framing, right? So here the framing is handled by the both the LLC as MAC, both the controls. So here mainly what this LLC will do is it mainly provides the interconnectivity between the different LANs. And the second one here we have is media access control, that is MAC, right? So here it mainly defines the specific access method for each LAN, right? So if you consider, for example, if you are having Ethernet LANs, then the access method used is CSMA bar CD. Or else if you are using any token ring or token bus LANs, then the access method is used as the token passing method, that is the access method. So in the previous videos already we have discussed some random access methods as well as the controlled access methods, isn't it? So among them, the work of this MAC is to choose the particular access method for the each LAN, right? And the next one here we have is Ethernet evolution. So here the Ethernet is having 4 generation, right? So the first one is standard Ethernet, which is of 10 Mbps, and then the fast Ethernet 100 Mbps, gigabit Ethernet of 1 Gbps, and the last one is 10 gigabit Ethernet, that is 10 Gbps. So let us see one by one in detail. So the first one here we have is standard Ethernet. So as you can see here, the Ethernet format is having around 7 fields, right? So the first one is preamble, then SFD, destination address, source address, type, data and padding, and the last one here we have is CRC. So let us see briefly one by one about these particular fields. So the first one here we have is preamble field. So it's a 7-byte field, or else I can say it's a 56 bits field, right? So it alerts the receiving system or receiving station to the coming frame and enable it to synchronize if it is out of the synchronization. So that work is mainly done by this preamble field. And then next one we have is SFD field, which mainly stands for start frame delimiter. So it's a 1-byte field which holds the value, that is 101011, as it is shown in this particular figure. You can see that about that particular field here it is written, especially that value is mentioned in terms of binary value, right? So it is the warning of the particular station, especially for the receiving station, about the last chance for the synchronization. So that particular warning is given by this SFD field. And the next one here we have is destination address, right? So here it is a 6-byte field, or else I can say it's a 48 bits field. So it contains the link layer address of the destination station, right? So that is about the destination address. And the next one here we have is source address, the 4th field. So it is also a 6 byte field, that is 48-bit field, but it contains the link layer address of the sender station, or else I can say it can store the link layer address of the source station. So that is about the source address. And the next field here we have is type field, right? So in type field it's a 2 byte field, right? So it defines the upper layer protocol in which the packet will be encapsulated. That is nothing but the upper layer protocol can be ARP also, or else OSPF also, or else IP also. It is acting like a which protocol we are using, that is the field, protocol field, which we have discussed in the previous class. So in that we have already discussed, that is the particular protocol field, the depending upon value we used to choose the protocols, right? So here also the same thing, the same work is done by this type field here. And the next one here we have is data and padding. That is it carries the data encapsulated from the upper layer protocols. If the data is less than 46 bytes, then it has to be padded with the extra zeros, right? So what is the minimum length of the data here? That is 46 bytes. But by chance if the data is less than that 46 bytes, then what it has to do is it has to add some extra zeros, that is nothing but padding, right? So padding of extra zeros has to be done here in order to maintain the minimum length of the particular payload, right? And what is the maximum payload length here? As you can see here in this figure, it is 1500 bytes, that is 1500 bytes, right? So if the data is more than 1500 bytes, then it has to be divided, that is fragmented and encapsulated in other frames, that is in number of frames, right? Now the work of the upper layer protocol is to know the length of the actual data, right, in order to remove the extra padded zeros, or whether it has to add the extra zeros at the sender side. So it is decided by the upper layer protocol, but the main thing is the upper layer protocol needs to know the actual length of the data. And the last field here we have is CRC field. So it's a 4 byte field and it holds the error detection information. The complete information about the error detection is holded by, or it is stored by, this particular CRC field, and it is calculated by the values of other fields like addresses, types and data field. So depending upon the values of those fields like addresses, types and data field, the particular value of CRC can be calculated. The next one is frame length. So what is the length of the frame? That is the minimum length of the frame, that is 64 bytes, isn't it? But here it is including the header as well as the trailer length. So when you add the header as well as trailer, you will get around 18 bytes of length, right? So header and trailers are nothing but what you need to consider: the destination address, source address, type as well as CRC. So when you add the length of all these particular fields, then you will get around 18 bytes. So when you subtract these 18 bytes from the 64 bytes, then you will be getting 46 bytes, right? So that particular 46 bytes indicates it's a minimum length of the data for the upper layer, right? So that's how you need to calculate the minimum data length from the frame length. So coming to the same thing, that is what is the maximum frame length? That is 1518 bytes, right? So again it is including the header and trailer length, isn't it? So again the same thing, the header and trailer length is 18 bytes, right? So when you subtract that 18 from this 1518, then you will get 1500, that is 1500 bytes, which is indicating us it's a maximum length of the data for the upper layer. So that's how you can calculate the maximum data length from the maximum frame length. But one more thing you need to remember here is we don't consider the preamble as well as the SFT fields in order to calculate the header length, the frame length as well as the data length. Those two fields are exceptional here. So coming to the addressing part, the stations who are on an Ethernet network have their own NIC, which stands for Network Interface Card. So this NIC provides the link layer address of the particular station, right? So all the stations will be having their own NIC in which they will get the link layer address from the particular NIC. So here the length of the Ethernet address is 6 bytes, or else I can say it's a 48 bits, which can be represented in hexadecimal notation. As you can see here, one example is considered here, that is 47.20.1b.2e.08.ee, right? So this is the hexadecimal notation of the particular Ethernet address, right, which indicates 6 bytes, or else you can consider 48 bits. So coming to the transmission of address bits, here it is sent from left to right, that is byte by byte. So let us consider one example in order to understand this. So here one address is given, right? So 47.20.1b.2e.08.ee, right? So it is sent out online. So how it is exactly been transmitted means, see, initially all the notations which are given in hexadecimal, they are converted into binary. As you can see here, 47 is represented by 0, 1, 000 and 111. But how they are exactly transmitted out online means in the reverse process, that is from left to right, as you can see. So all the binary bits, when you reverse it, then you will get for 47, 111, 000 and 10. So likewise they are transmitted byte by byte, but especially from left to right, right? So here how the transmission is being done for the particular address. And the next one here we have is unicast, multicast and broadcast addresses. How do we find whether the address is unicast, multicast or broadcast? So again it is depending upon the destination address, especially the last bit of the first byte in the destination address. So as you can see here, when you consider the byte 1, you have to consider the last bit of the first byte, right? So as you can consider here, if the particular value holds 0, then the address is unicast address, or if it is holding a 1, then it is indicating it's a multicast address. So that's how we can decide the unicast and the multicast addresses. But for what about the broadcast address? So here this is the one special case. For broadcast addresses, all the 48 bits of this particular address are represented by ones. So if all the bits are ones, then it is nothing but what? This particular address is broadcast address. The next one here we have is the distinguish between unicast, multicast and broadcast transmission. So one main point you need to remember here is the transmission in standard Ethernet is always broadcast. So as you can see in this figure shows the implementation of standard Ethernet, that is especially here they have represented a figure A and figure B. Figure A is a bus topology and figure B is a star topology. So coming to the bus topology, see here all the stations are connected to a common coaxial cable. As you can see here in this, the thick wire you can see, right? So that indicates it's a coaxial cable. So here whenever consider how many stations are present here from A to H. If A station wants to send any data to the station B, then it sends a frame to station B. But along with that, what happens here is all the stations will receive the data here. So that is the one thing what we have in this bus topology. But coming to the star topology, as you can see here, they are connected to a common hub, right? So as you can see, but how they are connected? They are connected with the help of twisted pair cable, right? So as you can see, all the stations, how many stations are there here? There are total 8 stations. So all the stations, they are connected to hub by the twisted pair cable. Now if any one of the station wants to send the data to any other station, then directly they cannot send the data from station to station here. Initially they have to send the data to hub, and what the hub will do, it will check for the data input data. So if the input data is weakened, then what it does is it regenerates the values of those weakened bits, and again it sends the address or that data to the destination addresses. So here again it is the particular hub is not holding the particular destination address. It directly sends the data to all the stations except the source station, that is A. If A wants to send data to B, Then A will initially send the data to hub, then hub will regenerate the bits if they are weakened, and it will send the same message to all the stations which are connected in the group except the source station, that is A. So here what other stations will do, if B is a destination, then B will keep the particular data. Then what happens about the other stations? The data is not related to them, so they just discard the packet. But the main thing here we have is how to understand it's a unicast transmission, multicast transmission, or else the broadcast transmission. So coming to the unicast transmission, so here what happens is all the stations receive the frame, but the destination station keeps it and the rest other stations will discard the frame. So this is what is there in the unicast transmission, right? So all the stations receives the frame, but what happens here is if the destination station is present, so it will receive it and the other stations will just discard the packet. So this is what in unicast transmission. Coming to the multicast transmission, see again here all the stations will receive the frame, right? But here all stations which are there in the group, they keep the frame and the rest other stations will discard the frame. That is what there in the multicast transmission, right? So coming to the broadcast, so here all the stations except the sender receives the frame and they keep the frame. So that is what there in the broadcast transmission.